Shane Dawson has become like this mystical creature we're all just trying to get little glimpses of. Like Bigfoot. Shane Dawson is Bigfoot. I didn't plan this introduction. Basically, anytime he makes any kind of appearance, whether that's an Instagram story or a feature in one of Ryland's videos, we're all just waiting to see what he says. And now, for the first time in a long time, we have an hour of Shane Dawson. And the things that he had to say were pretty interesting. What's crack, it's VangelinaSkov, and today we are going to be talking about Shane Dawson. Specifically, we're going to be talking about his appearance on his fiancée Ryland's podcast, The Sip. I think this is the most any of us have seen of Shane, obviously besides like his real life friends. The most any of us on the internet have seen of Shane since his fall from grace. This was an hour-long episode of Ryland's podcast where he put a couple of questions to Shane about his life, how things have been going for him, the move to Colorado, and what he plans to do in the future. And there are a good few things that he said in that podcast that I want to talk about today and just give you a brief overview of some of his main points in that episode. But before we get into that, I would really appreciate if you would please subscribe to this channel, and while you're down there, there's a little bell button right beside the subscribe button so that you can turn on notifications and get notifications when I upload. I feel like I said that really weirdly. Let me know if I said that really weirdly. And if you want to, you can also check out the Patreon or the memberships with the links in the description. They get extra benefits like bloopers reels, which go to both of those. There's actually going to be a new one of those pretty soon, possibly even today. And all of the patrons get access to the Patreon only podcast. The last episode was on my experiences with Creepshow art, so check both of those out if you want to. My cat came to say hi. She said, stop talking about your Patreon and make the video. So let's do that. Let's make the video. So one of the first and main topics that comes up in the video is quite a dark one, and it's quite a serious one, and that has to do with Shane's mental health over the last year and a half, or however long he was talking about really. Also sort of his mental health forever, but I feel like he was specifically talking about the last year or so. And this came up because they were talking about different things, and Shane was saying basically he finds it really hard not to make jokes about things because that's how he copes essentially. Basically saying he finds it hard not to make dark jokes, and Ryland asks, well, what dark joke were you trying to make? And Shane just goes, I thought it would be funny if I share one of my notes. Goodbye notes. That's what we're going to call it, because YouTube God's mad, yada yada, you get the picture. But he does talk about it more seriously, and he says getting jokes about this kind of stuff is how he gets through difficult things, but yes, he has written those notes, and thankfully he got through it and he's still here. The thing was that Ryland seemed very caught off guard by this, and he even asked, you've written notes? So he had no idea. But Ryland did obviously have an idea that Shane was going through a hard time and thinking these kinds of thoughts, because Ryland goes on to say that Shane goes to bed much later than he does, and for a while Ryland was thinking, well, should I be going to bed? Maybe I should be staying up. So sort of alluding to thinking, well, is it safe for me to leave Shane down here on his own? But I think the whole point of Shane wanting to bring this up, it seemed like he wanted it to be sort of a positive message rather than just bringing up dark things, because he does go on to say things about it being, as we all have heard before, a permanent solution to a temporary problem, which he says, you know, when you're a teenager, you hear all that stuff and you just kind of roll your eyes, but it really is true. And that all the happiest moments that he's had from the last year or so, happy moments with Ryland and moving and everything like that, he wouldn't have experienced those if he had have listened to those dark thoughts. So I think the main reason that I'm wanting to bring this up is because it is a good message despite what you may think about Shane, whether you hate him, which I'm pretty sure the majority of you do. But whether you hate him or love him, it is a good positive message, and it's nice to hear creators speak so openly about stuff like this, and not only speak about their experiences, but remind others that it's not a good path to go down. Even though we know that, it's a positive thing to hear somebody else say that they've been there and they're glad that they didn't go through with it. And on the topic of mental health, this isn't the only thing that they actually talk about in relation to Shane. They actually end up talking about his OCD, which I didn't realize he had OCD. I don't know if he has an official diagnosis. He didn't actually say that. He did say he was going to therapy for it, so I assume. Basically, Shane just tells the story of how he found out he had OCD. He'd had a fight with Ryland about something that was related to it, not knowing that it was actually OCD. OCD. So he ended up Googling skin picking, which is something that he suffers with, and found out that it is a symptom of OCD, or can be a symptom of OCD, and then found that a lot of the things that he had been experiencing were symptoms of OCD. So went to therapy about it and is now working on it. But this was kind of interesting because Ryland actually brought up this topic about the OCD, and then afterwards says that he brought it up to make himself look better, because before that they'd been talking about Ryland and how whether or not he's lazy. Shane saying he's lazy and Ryland saying, I'm not lazy, I'm just slow about doing stuff, and talking about some of his bad habits or flaws and things like that. So he says, well, I was bringing up the OCD to make myself look better, which is kind of a weird thing to say. I don't know if it just came out badly, like if it didn't come out the way he actually meant it, or he actually meant it like that, but it's a very weird thing to do, to bring up somebody else's mental health issues to make yourself look better. I don't know. There was actually a lot of maybe not arguing, but heated discussion between Ryland and Shane that did at parts make me uncomfortable, and you could see Lizzie getting uncomfortable as well, because it did look like they were kind of going at each other. But later on Ryland does clarify that they're just being playful, and Shane says, I think you're too worried about what other people are going to think about this. And at that point I thought, yeah, maybe their relationship and how they choose to interact with each other is none of my business. For a while there it did look like they were actually just gonna have like a big fight or something. It seemed like trouble in paradise, or whatever the phrase is. But I guess they both seem happy, and Shane even says, I wouldn't be with you if you weren't perfect for me, which is quite sweet actually. But let's stop talking about mental health for a minute. Let's go on and talk about what Shane had to say about the future of his channel and his career, actually. Because Ryland asked, what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself going after this? And Shane's saying that he wants to make horror movies. That he's always wanted to do that since he was little, and he's actually written 2 and hopes to make one of them. So I don't know if that's actually going to happen. He has the money to do it if he wants to. As for YouTube, which I know is what you guys are actually interested in, it seems there is not going to be a Britney Spears documentary, as a lot of people were guessing there would be, because Shane had made a joke about doing a docu-series on Britney, because Shane says, I'm not plotting, and then makes a joke, don't you know I'm at Britney's right now? So I'm pretty sure that means no Britney docu-series. And also because Shane says he doesn't have any plans for YouTube, although he does want to be making content, and he says he's in a space where he wants to be making YouTube videos. He enjoys making YouTube videos. He enjoys editing, he enjoys the whole process, but he just can't get any inspiration. Nothing is striking him. There's nothing that he feels excited about. And also he goes on to say that he's a little bit older now and is not as up to date with pop culture and knows nothing about TikTok. So he doesn't know what he's going to be doing. He's waiting for inspiration to strike, but he does want to be making videos, which I'm pretty sure means he will be making something sooner rather than later, but I guess that depends on what your definition of sooner is. I don't know, do you guys want him back? Do you want to see what he does, or are you just like, nah, stay away? Because it'll be interesting to see how he's received on YouTube when he does come back, because most people are vehemently against him, they hate him, and they want him to stay away, whereas he does still have a very strong fan base who love him and are just waiting for him to make more content. Like even on the podcast episode, there was a lot of very positive comments. I couldn't find one negative one about Shane. Now, I don't know if they went and deleted the negative ones, no idea. But still, either way, there were a lot of positive ones. And actually the like to dislike ratio was very good. When I watched, I think it had like 10,000 likes and maybe 200 dislikes. So obviously the people who do like Shane want him to come back. It's just gonna be seeing whether those people are louder than the people who don't want him back. I don't know. Either way, if he does choose to come back to YouTube and make more videos, he is going to have an audience, and nothing's going to stop him from coming back if he wants to come back, even if people are saying they want him to stay away. But we just have to wait and see. The only other thing that I want to bring up about the podcast episode was what Shane had to say at the very end, at the last couple of minutes about it, which is when he's saying how proud he is of Ryland and Lizzie for doing the podcast consistently and sticking with it and all that. And he's saying this because he feels like he's ruined the lives of everybody around him because of his own past mistakes, which to a degree I'm not going to say he's right, but I can see how his own controversies negatively impacted his friends, because anybody who associated with him was getting a lot of hate and harassment from people on the internet. So to that degree, his mistakes, if he wants to call them that, did negatively impact other people. And there kind of is no getting away from that. But do let me know in the comments what you think about all of this. Have you watched the podcast episode? Do you think he's going to come back to YouTube soon? And if so, do you want him there, or do you think he should just stay away? Also, if you feel like it, give me a guess. If he was to make a docuseries, what do you think it would be on? I think it would be him trying to explore TikTok and the world of TikTok and figuring that out. I feel like based on what he said, that would be the most logical conclusion to go, well, I don't know anything about TikTok, so let's delve into this world and see what it's all about. But place your bets down below. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it from me for now. So like I said at the start of the video, please subscribe, turn on all notifications, and you can also follow me on social media. Like, comment, share, and do all the things that I'm supposed to ask you to do at the end of the video. And have a wonderful day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!